Okay. Welcome to our school board meeting on this 13th of October, 7 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank everyone for coming. First up, I would actually like to amend the agenda to include superintendent evaluation form as item E under our consent agenda. With that amendment, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Ellis, any communications? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no communications.
Okay, we will move on to any hearing of visitors. And before we do that, I will go ahead and read the protocol for addressing the board. So you may present a concern to the board during the time reserved for hearing public comment, which is now. If this is the case, we ask that you, prior to the start of the meeting, sign in or let us know that you intend to address the board. That could have been done through email or a phone call to the district office. We ask that you come to the microphone and state and spell your last name for the record. We ask that you do not reflect adversely on the political or economic view, ethnic background, character, or motives of any individuals. Do keep your comments concise, non-emotional, and brief. We as the board are interested in hearing your concerns and your compliments too. As I said earlier, it's best to call ahead to let us know that you're coming to the meeting. If that isn't possible, you can ask to be recognized during this time. Heidi, did we have anyone send in that they were going to comment? No. Mr. Rayner? Oh, okay. Would you like to make comment?
Thank you. I do have a couple things I'd like to discuss, or a couple issues I have. One being homecoming. Last week it was announced, that students attending the high school homecoming had to buy their tickets with proof of a COVID shot or a COVID test. With much uproar and phone calls to the superintendent, it was changed, getting tested regarding the COVID shot status. Although this makes more change to everybody getting the COVID shot or COVID test, I'm sorry. Though this makes more sense due to the fact that not getting the COVID shot does not prevent you from catching, transmitting, getting sick, or dying, this is still an issue. Although I'm against testing, my issue with these rules are that these kids and staff are not tested prior to entering the school every day. They sit next to each other and eat lunch together, nor being tested daily when they play sports together, and yet we're making them test for a homecoming dance that is outside. There is no consistency in the handling of the way we test our kids or staff. This virus is not going to go away. We all should know that by now. And therefore, we should all have the common sense of not attending things if we're not feeling well. You know, are we going to be testing consistently for years to come? I don't think so. I don't think the district could afford it. So I think this is something we need to live with. And I believe we need to be able to see some consistency with our protocols. Secondly is COVID shot mandates. And if you haven't heard, the governor of California has come out saying that once the COVID shots are approved for 5 and older, that he'd make it mandated for all public school kids. Because what happens down south works its way up north into Washington. My question for this board is, have you had conversations yet on how to mitigate that, or how the school district is going to respond to a mandate that probably eventually get here at some point in time? You know, it's always best to be proactive instead of reactive. So I'm asking this today, getting ahead of potentially what our governor might say. And I believe that we are already, we're already losing kids as it is. You know, this would be another step of losing more kids in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have it, Heidi? No, okay, we're good. Thank you. Oh, yes. Sure. Yes. Yes, please.
My name's Kathleen Ripplinger.
So just so you know, we'll listen and we will respond at a later time, not tonight, immediately after your question.
That's fine, as
Okay.
long as you listen.
Yes.
I was gonna ask about the vaccine mandate from Mr. Rader.
Mhm.
Already brought that up. So I have a couple other questions. Can't seem to get an answer. Do we have a mandate for masks? Are the kids required to wear masks every day?
Yes.
They are. That sucks. And then my second question is critical race theory. Are you guys teaching that in our classrooms? In no way, shape, or form.
No, we are not. Deanna can walk you through a little bit of a text adoption and what that kind of looks like. But all our curriculum adoptions are done locally and based locally with people within our community, educators, community members who make decisions about what will be taught within our classrooms. Now, the state has broad standards that we have to teach to, and sometimes that are assessed. However, we have the liberty and freedom and autonomy as a local school district to choose what we're going to teach in order to align with those broad standards. So Deanna, do you want to kind of talk about your process with, they just went through a curriculum adoption for dyslexia curriculum. So of course that doesn't have ties really, I wouldn't think, to any critical race theory or mathematics or anything like that. Social studies hasn't gone through a text adoption probably since I was in high school, or at least that's what I've been told by Mr. Dillahunt, that the books are, I think maybe Bush 1. So yeah, so Deanna, you want to kind of walk through the process?
So there is no critical race theory curriculum. All the curriculum that we currently have or has been recently adopted, it all goes through a process where there's a committee established that includes teachers, administrators, parents, sometimes if it's older kids, students. We look at a curriculum that basically meets the state standards and make a decision on which curriculum we think best fits our students. But we don't have any. I know that this term critical race theory has come up, and I think because we did a racial literacy course that keeps coming up, but it's really about better understanding our students and meeting their needs. It's not about teaching critical race theory, and that's just become kind of a buzzword, and it's just not something that we're doing. So.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes. That's okay.
Judith Stanton. And I'm gonna follow up on what Mr. Rayner had said. You know, when you guys are wanting to test, or when he was saying he was gonna, the ones that didn't have the shot had to be tested, the students to go to homecoming. And then you got all this backlash, and so you're changing it. I thought that, you know, racist and segregation, aren't you guys segregating these students that choose not to have the shot? I mean, it's their own right and their own bodies, and you're kind of segregating and making them stand out, and other kids are gonna say, you know, well, because of this and that, you guys aren't getting a shot. You're causing more problems with the students by doing that. Learn, and like Mr. Rayner said, they go to school every day and they have their masks on. By all of a sudden now outside, they're having, and they go to the games and stuff, that they all have to have a COVID shot or a test. Who are you
Yeah.
pacifying? I mean, it's just to
Yeah,
pacify somebody or
no,
what?
so I can respond to that. I received one phone call that was from Mr. Rayner. He'd asked why, you know, there was a difference. And really at that time, I said, if really you want, if you're asking for all students to be tested, then we'll test all students. It wasn't that big of an issue. In fact, I don't know how many kids are vaccinated at the high school, but I think it would be a minority population. It'd be a smaller group. So the decision was to go ahead and test all of them. Now, this is outside of what Benton Franklin County recommends, their health district. We're complying with their guidance in this. The Tri-City schools, Kaibi, everybody else who's running a dance is doing the exact same thing. In fact, we even chose to have the dance outside so the kids wouldn't have to mask up. It was an outside event. So we're following guidance that's coming from the county. Of course, that's strapped to insurance and liability conversations that if we don't comply and somebody were to get sick or ill, we would be on the hook for that. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. And, you know, common sense, kids don't feel good. Their parents aren't going to send them to school, whether it be a fever with COVID or the flu. You know, I mean, it's common sense. It's so, I don't know, you guys are segregating. It seems like you're segregating and just sorting out the
Yeah,
ones that don't have the shot.
we would hope that's what parents would do, but we've had cases where kids have come to school sick, have gone to practice sick. Even when we pulled them into the office and said, obviously you don't feel well, the student said, you know, yeah, mom gave me Tylenol this morning to reduce the fever. And so you would think that it would be as easy as that, but it's not as easy as that.
Right.
Easy as that. Of course
And
we
they've done
do.
that with ever since the flu and the.
Yeah, yeah, of
There's
course.
Babysitting.
Yeah, we do screening. We try and mask. Again, these are compliance measures that have come down from the state and are within the Benton Franklin Health District. We struggled to open up because of the 6-foot distancing mandate. They reduced that to 3. And so we're still trying to comply within the best of our ability. You know, they've said that on some of these pieces, the state OSPI has on some of these pieces that if you don't comply, then they'll pull funding. So that puts us in a tricky situation about, do we want to fire employees over an issue of principle? Or do we want to try to do our best to comply and keep everybody employed in the district? And so it's a little bit of a tricky situation to navigate. You know, you can blame me, say that I'm a poor leader. You can say whatever you want, but I'm doing the best to keep things afloat. These aren't edicts or mandates from the desk of Matt Ellis to the community of Prosser.
Oh, no.
It's
I
not
know
coming
that.
from my
I know
desk. So yeah.
that. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anyone on Zoom that wanted to make comment? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have one item under information items. That's the public records request update. Craig or Matt, did you want to say anything about that?
Sure. The board had asked for us to produce a report around public records and the cost associated with public records. And so this is that document. Other than that, we have no further comment.
Okay. We will continue on and move on to reports. Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and Instruction, please.
I included in the package some information about Orton Gillingham. We are purchasing Orton Gillingham and having some training here in November. This is a one-on-one or small group intensive intervention for students who are having reading difficulties. It's been around for 80 years. It's well known. It's supported by the National Dyslexia Association. And so we are going to be using this with some of our struggling readers as well in regular ed, as well as some of our struggling readers in special education. So just a little bit of information there. Once we're trained in November, we will start, we have already starting to identify students through the dyslexia screener who might be in need of intervention, either in the classroom, maybe something a little stronger, some reading intervention outside the classroom. And this would be the level of intensive intervention, students who have continued to struggle with other interventions and it has not helped them progress appropriately. So that's one. I have two other things. Number one, number two, I did meet with Ed Champagne, Dan Purfoy, and Kevin Yeoman yesterday as we looked over any final little changes for the Whitstrand construction project. So that's going to be coming to the forefront again as we get ready to prepare for bid this spring. It'll be exciting when we get down the road and get that final one done. It seems like it's went by really fast, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And the last one I just heard actually on an email tonight, I saw before I came here. I applied for funding for the Learn to Return grant, which is it's ESSER funds basically that the state was given. It's run through the Health Commons, and it's so that districts can get help with testing, or COVID testing, because our health room staff is spread so thin and working such long hours. And so I applied literally yesterday, and we are going to get a full-time person here to do our testing and the associated paperwork and contact tracing with that. So nurses don't know that yet. If they're listening, I know now. So I'll be pretty excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Deanna? All right, you're up next, business and operations.
Thank you. Mine's really loud. So I'll speak back a little bit. Just three quick things. Number one, our staff is working on closing out the school's 2021 school year ending in August. So that's quite a process. Should be done by the end of October with that. And then I can present to the board after OSPI review and ESD review the actual financial reports for that school year. Number two, we have received a $10,000 grant for ASB, loss of revenue from the state. So that's a good thing. We do need to spend it on things as opposed to just receiving the money as a loss of revenue. So it's interesting that we need to still spend this $10,000, even though it's meant to be a loss of revenue. So maybe to recoup some of those expenses. The last thing is I just wanted to remind the board of the educational programs and operation expenses levy. Used to be called the maintenance and operation levy, now has that longer name. The current levy expires December 31st of 2022. So, but typically you ask the voters for a levy in like February or April of next year. But in order to get the levy on the ballot, it has to be to the county auditors by December 10th of 2021. So that's coming up pretty quickly. Again, the decision needs to be made on length of the levy, 2, 3, 4 years. The last 2 levies that have been in front of the voters have been 4-year levies. Previous to that, we've typically gone with 2-year levies, but so the length of the levy and the amount of the levy will need to be decided. So we probably ought to start having some meetings, whether it's a study session or something, to talk about projected rates, dollars allocated, and those kind of things. That's all that I have on that.
Any questions for Mr. Reynolds from the board? Mr. Ellis, do you already have that? That you're going to get that set for a study session?
I emailed the board kind of about issues that were hanging out there. And so we've talked in the office. We've talked in the office about it, but we'll need to get further information and perspectives from the board as we set that. And then as we set the length of it, how long we're going to levy. So yeah, we've been talking in the office about it, as well as I emailed the board about kind of it hanging out there and us needing to start work on that because it is important.
Okay, we'll get a study session set soon. Next up is construction report specific to Keene Riverview. Are you speaking to that?
Yeah. I don't know if Dan Purefoy is online tonight. Can you check on that? If not, we ask him to provide some pictures of KRV, and that is within the board packet for board members to review. And so they're inching towards really getting a substantial amount of that completed. We're continuing to work with them, Fowler Construction, as well as CSG and Architects West on that project.
The pictures that were included were really cool, and it's looking like it's getting closer. I think, is Kinder still set to move in? Okay.
Kinder's moving in Monday. The teachers are already getting the room set. They've been moving in this past week or a little more than a week.
So Dan Purefoy is online. So if we can unmute him, he can talk through. He said that he's on the Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, sorry, I had to do *6 on the phone. I was hitting the mute on the phone, but you had to do *6. So I think I overheard a little bit of what you were saying, Deanna. You got into, I believe, the occupancy this Monday, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you want me to walk through the report? Do you have specific questions for me on anything, whether that be the progress, schedule, contingency, anything of that nature?
Yes to all of that, I think, Dan. We'd love just a general update.
Okay. So would you like me to walk through the report then? Do you have the report in front of you?
Yes, we do.
Okay. For the most part, I think it's pretty self-explanatory with the description, but I guess if we start with the Keene Riverview report, page 1, that's your typical kindergarten classroom in the new edition. I basically gave you a look on, all walls, northeast, south, and west. You'll see the whiteboard teaching wall, your window wall, you've got your cubbies in the back, and then you got your casework wall where you have the individual restrooms, which you can see in the back left corner there in the bottom left picture. Page 2, that's just some overall shots of the library. And some of these are a little bit dated because if I took the pictures and gave you the ones from this week, there's a massive pile of boxes in the library. So you just be seeing boxes basically. So these are actually about a week and a half old. page number 3, these are your, this is the instructional coach, math intervention host, and then the bottom right is the art/music room. The next page is just to look down into your corridors. You've got the top left picture is looking down in that specialty corridor with the music art room. Top right, you're looking back down that hall. And that's actually, bottom right is that is your bathroom in the kinder wing. So each one of your rooms down there have that individual bathroom. And the last page is just a quick look into the mod area. Top left is obviously your multi-purpose room where we've gutted everything down. Your top right is kind of a bad picture. It's hard to get a good picture in there, but that's where they've started the new framing in the revised administration area. So it's in the existing school, it's in the same location. We've just tore down all the studs, reconfigured the rooms, and gave a different orientation in there. The bottom left picture is kind of looking back at the direction of what was the admin area, but that's going to become the title intervention and another general classroom there. And the last picture is just a typical look down the corridor. They're all going to relatively, you're not really seeing too much at this stage. It's, they're still progressing with demo at the far west wing, but you're starting to see now, the new framing come along, the HVAC infrastructure going in, electrical is going in, and plumbing rough-in is going in. The mechanical room is now basically 98, 90%, 99% complete, and your heating and cooling are operational. They're still fine-tuning those systems, but that is operating as of basically the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Your electrical and telecommunication room is it's a work in progress, but all systems should be go by tomorrow. We have a little training with Jesse out there tomorrow morning on fire alarm and your classroom AV systems. But yeah, we got the temp occupancy from the city, I believe, end of last week. So we do have the official go on occupancy. I guess any questions you guys have at Keene?
Anyone have questions? Nope.
Okay. Moving on to the Heights. First page, that's a look at your main entry, kind of your multi-purpose room at the corner. You've got, I tried to take a picture of the just the main entry there. That's going to be your new drive. We're going to end up tearing out all of the asphalt, redoing the parking lot, sidewalk, so everything will be all new. That bottom left picture there, that's the new footings for your admin addition, which is going to basically bump out. You can see the existing wall right there. It's not quite, it's a pretty small addition, but it gives enough room to actually make the admin area a more usable space. The second page, that's a look at the classroom wing addition. It's an exterior look.
So Dan, we didn't actually
And the
get
bottom
the
right-
photos yet we only got Riverview in our packet before we came to the meeting. So we're going to see the pictures you're talking about tomorrow. But we'd still like to hear your
So,
update.
Yeah, so generally speaking on Heights, the addition of the structure is up. They're starting the admin addition hopefully next week. As far as inside the building, they are doing underground plumbing, so they had to cut through the existing slab, and they're going to be running all the existing underground waste lines. They've made all the structural cuts, and they're doing the footing and pourbacks for the added structural columns. There's some new glue lambs that have to go in because we're supporting these your larger new HVAC units, so we had to make quite a few structural improvements around the building to support those units. So that work is ongoing right now. As soon as the pourbacks can happen, the concrete for this concrete slab, then the framing can then infill after that, which is targeted to happen within a week actually. And as soon as the framing goes in, then the MEP, the mechanical and electrical plumbing, will really start to kind of chase and follow through that framing. That's where that one's at right now. Any questions, I guess, on anything you've seen, anything you've heard?
No. Nope.
So,
Hey,
go ahead. Is that Matt?
Hey, as we start to wrap these projects up and start to put our focus on Whitstrand. Can you just make sure that,
Yes.
yeah, we start talking about that project as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I heard Deanna earlier mention we met, gosh, I think it was yesterday at this point. We sat down basically kind of just to solidify the floor plan, because it's been a long time since we were really, talking about that project. And I think we got there yesterday with a couple of slight modifications. We moved the security room more towards the main entry vestibule right in the front of the admin. And a couple of other small tweaks. I believe we came up with the final solid floor plan. So at this point, the design team is going to continue to progress. There will be various drawing deliverables, from 25% sets to 50% sets, 75 and so on, where the district will have an opportunity to review those plans. And so if anything comes up you guys don't like, you still have plenty of opportunity for input. But as far as this point in time on the floor plan, I think we're set to go on that. As far as finishes, they kind of came up a little bit, how are we going to select finishes? That's going to be an ongoing process throughout, the next several months. But essentially right now the schedule is proceed fast as we can with the design right now to get you guys an early spring bid either in March or April. That way we beat the majority of the schools that are going to be building next summer, so we can get you as competitive as a bid as possible. We're going to try to build in some alternates into your bid for some form of flexibility. We do know that we are facing extremely high cost per square foot right now in the current market, the way it is with inflation, material pricing, labor pricing. So it's kind of it's going to be a tough project to gauge, really. We're sending it out for an independent cost estimate right now, just to kind of see what they're seeing as far as market escalations to give a basis. Because if you recall, we're working off of semi-old budgets. We did update the Whitstrand budget to kind of reflect the costs we were seeing on Keene Riverview and Prosser Heights. But we may need to build some additional contingency into the construction costs just to make sure that you guys have the amount you need to award basically just the base program area. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, I was going to ask if there could possibly be substantial savings in value engineering on that specific project.
Well, we kind of went through the value engineering, went through the first phase of that. I think it was all the way back in 2019 at this point. So we went through that effort. We made a change yesterday, actually, where we elected to move 2 classrooms so the current plan was we were basically going to have one wing bumping out south of the multipurpose room, and then we had another 2 classroom addition, which was going east of the classroom wing. Well, we elected to move the east addition to run concurrently with the south addition, so we should see some savings on that. But as far as making any major drastic changes, there's not a lot really to cut out of Whitstrand. It's pretty much been designed to the base program requirements that you guys need to function and get you entirely out of the portables. The site circulation has been minimized to give you your base requirements for your parent drop off, being separate from your bus drop off, and having the the code required parking that you need. So there isn't a ton of fluff really to cut out of the project. It's basically designed, like I said, to meet your program needs right now. Because any questions on Whitstrand?
Nope.
Okay, and so contingency-wise, just to give you an update for the 2 elementaries going now, Heights and Riverview, your overall contingency is about 1.2, which is the standard 5% that we run on the overall construction value. And right now, you guys you have expended approximately 300,000 of that 1.2 million. So you're sitting pretty good right now. And we are, we're up out of the ground. We've gone through probably 90% of the demo. So we've exposed a lot of the unforeseen conditions with respect to like asbestos and those types of conditions, or multiple walls where we didn't know existed, or another ceiling that was above hidden that we didn't know was there. We ran into quite a few unforeseen conditions that you can't predict all of these things. Or when you have, for example, at Riverview, when you had a building that was basically constructed in 3 different time periods over the last 100 years and built upon each other and connected and overlapped. There's a lot of things you run into that are surprises, but to be sitting at 300,000 at this point, you know, where we are on the new, basically the new build out portion is pretty good. I mean, you're obviously going to have changes moving forward, but we should be past the bulk of the really bad ones. So I guess a question for the board would be any contingency that we have remaining out of, say, the high school, which we know we have contingencies there. And Deanna and I kind of briefly talked about this yesterday, you know, what possibly the plan would be for the remaining funds at the high school and any potential funds remaining from KRV and Heights. Should we roll that into a pool that we could set aside to make sure that Whitstrand gets awarded to meet your program needs? Or what would you like to do with that money when we get to that point in time? Because the high school we can reconcile essentially probably at the end of this month. I need to talk to Craig about that, but I would think we could probably do it at the end of this month. And so we'll know, generally speaking, basically exactly where you stand with respect to the overall high school funds remaining. And it's pretty substantial. I don't want to throw a number right now, but it is pretty substantial.
Yeah, do we have to give you an answer on that tonight, Dan?
No, I just want to put it out there so you guys can talk about it and think about, you know, how where you want to allocate that funding. If you just want to set it aside and keep it in the capital projects accounts for now. And I mean, I'm just putting it out there so we can just be aware that we may need to tap into that to award Whitstrand's program space.
Yeah, I think
originally. Go ahead.
Obviously they're keeping the money closest to the kids and really focusing on our educational needs. The money allocated for the new district office are, addressing the old PHS. I think it was intended to address some of the needs, but, all fully knowing that we'd have to probably piecemeal it along the way. So, but we can talk about it at a later time or give the board a little bit of time to think. And then Deanna and I can get back to you on the priorities with the projects.
Perfect. Sounds good. Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there so we could start having that discussion. I guess any other questions on anything progress or?
Nope.
Okay.
Anything else for
Thanks
us?
for having me.
Thank you.
Sorry?
I was saying thank you.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
Okay, moving on, Mr. Lusk, please, athletics and activities.
All righty. Away we go. Well, we are back in person, obviously, both at the high school and middle school relative to their ASBs. They are back at it with all their calendaring and meeting and planning and concessions and ASB cards and all that fun stuff. Student leadership options are there for kids, and we are underway. In order to do a lot of the things that are away from school underway, we have to rely on our busing. Wanted to give Amy another shout out for everything that she's doing, try to keep that running. We have a limited number of drivers, that's no news, but that limits number of trips. We're down to 2 a day, which when you take into consideration all the middle school activities, all the high school activities, that's a juggle. And she does a great job of staying in communication. So we have to be flexible. I'm just going to mention yesterday's a good example. We were supposed to put our 8th graders on the bus for football up in Wapato at 1:30. Their 7th graders were supposed to be down here. Well, they called and said they didn't have a bus driver. So we loaded all of our 7th and 8th within about a 45-minute period on the bus and sent them up to play. So we didn't lose a game. And that's what we wanted for the kids. But the cooperation and the communication has been great. We are finishing up the fall sports at the middle school, probably another week and a half. We'll be moving into winter 1. As you remember, middle school, they divide up the winter sports kind of into 2. So they do boys basketball and drill, followed by girls basketball and wrestling. We're still got some coaches to hire and stuff there, but that's not unusual. But we're getting ready to rock and roll. That'll be in a couple weeks when we start that. Relative to the high school, we're right in the middle of everybody getting after it in cross-country, soccer, swim, football, volleyball. We are continuing to review the guidance and direction from both the State Department of Health and WIAA. We have, as it's kind of been mentioned, those outdoor sports with less than 500, masks are not required. They're recommended, but they're not required. Outdoor sports, when they get over 500, then mask is required, which is usually our football games. So we are doing that. Indoor sports, they're required for everybody. Coaches, spectators, players, etc. In volleyball, they can unmask while they're playing. I've given you some of the details just so that you know this is all coming as we move forward as well. Obviously, inside our coaches, spectators, workers are asked to mask up. When we do move into winter sports, those are all high-risk activities, says the Department of Health. That's basketball, wrestling, and yes, cheer, because of the nature of the sport, the hauling, screaming, the sharing of spit, etc. So they ask that they are masked up as well. However, we do have options for recording vaccination or testing. The testing is 2 times a week or before every contest, so that we know kids that are out there or at least negative, and we run around and get it done that way. That's a huge burden on our nursing staff. Just going to mention that. We have already started training other people, myself, other admin, other coaches. We'll get our coaches trained as well to be able to do the test, because if we have to get on a bus and go to Refreda, but we have to test before we get on the bus to go to Refreda, we're going to need more hands to do that. So we will be training our coaches there. Some information on facilities. The athletic facilities at the new high school, some of the infrastructure like seats for the volleyball poles and stuff have been fixed. We've been able to actually hold an event there. None of the equipment that we ordered is arrived yet, but we're using the old stuff from the old high school, and so far it's working pretty good. But I'd encourage everybody, volleyball game tomorrow, homecoming, come and please watch the Lady Mustangs. But I will say that most of the gym equipment that we ordered we don't have, and we don't have any real date on that. That includes things like volleyball system, chairs, scoreboards, mats, all that kind of stuff that requires lots of shipping, lots of production. It's slow, and that's no news probably to anybody. I wanted to comment on the streaming events. We did make the amount $5. We probably in the last couple of weeks made $300 that we could be able to put to our athletic department. I did have to call and apologize to a gentleman up in Ephrata whose niece was playing in the volleyball game. We had it ready to go, but we couldn't get it to go. So he paid and didn't get his money. So I called him and he said, enjoy the donation. So that was nice. We were able to hold a cross-country meet at our new facility, which basically means that they're running, starting at the track, going up the hill, up around baseball, soccer, come on back down. Worked out great. They did a good job, and we'll be making that better as we go. I mentioned the first volleyball game at home, and again, homecoming tomorrow. Just reviewing those guidelines. I know that it can be difficult, but I need to give a shout out to everybody who helped supervise and put on these events. Everybody, as they're coming in, we try to remind people of the protocol. We have people around in the stands. We have statements. We're trying to do our best. The whole goal is that everybody stays safe, obviously, and the kids can participate. And that's our goal. It doesn't always work out great. We don't always have complete cooperation, but we stay on it. And we do ask our Mustangs as they travel to please be great, guests as they go and not be a pain in the neck. We want to keep our kids playing. Brings us to homecoming, which we're cranked up right now. They're probably at halftime of the Powder Puff. They're getting it done. We did blackout volleyball on Monday, great attendance, kids cooperated. It was really fun. We expect the same thing today over at Powder Puff. We are gearing up for the dance. There has been some conversation about that. We did and do get the information from the Department of Health. They provided us on, this one's entitled Homecoming, so it gives you all the expectations. So we did at our AD meeting today up in Ellensburg. We've had Grandview's had theirs, Ellensburg had theirs. They've all followed the same protocol. One was outside, one was inside. Ellensburg had over 450 kids attend, and so they were able to test and do the protocol. We are at about probably 175 that are interested right now. We expect that to go up by another 100 hopefully tomorrow. We will be out there, obviously, if it's outside, we don't have to require the mask. If we go inside, we will. And obviously, while they're taking their pictures and stuff, we have time for kids to take their mask off. We will continue to do everything we can to communicate that well. I know that as we move into the winter sports, that'll be a little bit more probably conversations that's needed. We'll work with the teams and coaches to get that ready to go. But there's enough of me. Any questions?
Anyone have any? Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next up, Mr. Follett. Career and technical education, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hi. So a couple things on my report. We're in the process. We've submitted our articulation renewals to CBC for financial algebra and intro to marketing. Those are courses we currently have articulated and students can earn credit. So I feel really confident about those being renewed. It's just kind of one of those boilerplate things you have to do every 4 or 5 years, depending on the course. We've reached out to CBC and would like to offer credit in our CAD class as well as medical terminology. Those will be new articulations, and if we get those approved, that will bring our total classes articulated with CBC to 9. And then a total credit of 42 credits that students can earn through CBC in our CT courses. And those are transcribed college credits that they can either use in CBC at those programs, or if they transfer to WSU or any other school within the state, they'll transfer also. And then the next part is we've expanded our STEM offerings down here at Housel. We have Dean Smith teaching coding this year through code.org. And we have Megan Vandegraff teaching medical detectives through Project Lead the Way. Both excellent curriculums. We're in the process of finishing up the frameworks, and we'll be submitting those to the state to get vocational funding or CT funding for those courses. Conversations I had last year with community members, the STEM advisory committee, and then information that came back from Deanna's surveys last year was there's a need and desire to expand STEM. And that makes sense. We don't have STEM courses at the high school, but we have STEM courses at the middle school. So I worked with Craig, and we're going to create a new position, a new program of STEM at the high school. And within that, we'll be teaching, my vision is courses in computer science, cybersecurity, and principles of engineering. Then that way we'll bring in the computer science, we'll bring in some more programming, we'll bring in robotics, we'll bring in drones, and just create more opportunities for students. The additional opportunities the students will get besides learning new things that we don't currently offer is we'll create another graduation pathway for students for CTE. And then also we'll be able to expand our extracurricular activities and contests much as we do in the other areas at the high school. So I look really forward to that. We're having an advisory meeting next week to get further input from the advisory committee on what that position should look like. And my goal is to get it listed early so we can get it filled early, because if I would like to have that person in place, regardless if they're in our district or coming to us from another district by the end of November, because I anticipate using some more Project Lead the Way curriculum, and it would be best to spread that out and have that person do some of that work in the January sessions, as well as then doing some of it in August sessions. So I look forward to starting that program and seeing where it can grow and expand from there.
And just Rick's been doing a great job with really helping to build these programs. Starting in 22-23, where we're actually required to have computer science in the high school, and we don't currently have it. So this will also help us meet that requirement and offer some things. We have a lot of kids and have interest in this area, and it's mostly been here at the middle school, and they haven't had a chance to expand. So thanks to Rick for doing that.
Any questions?
This is fantastic news. Thank you. This is exciting.
Yeah, good job. I really appreciate the shares that we bought in at TriTech and going up there. That was an exciting time that when they voted us in as a member of that kind of that governing body or that board that runs it. I think that was a really beneficial move for Prosser and their kids, and really specific programs in welding, fire science, things like that, that our kids wouldn't have the opportunity to get into as much. I mean, it was difficult to have the numbers, to get the numbers that we have now. So thank you for that. And your vision around Project Lead the Way and some of the biomed stuff that they're doing and implementing that. That's a really, I think it's a good move and it's stuff that our kids are interested in.
I will say, now I have several meetings now at TriTech, and they've been really welcoming and and Paul Randall's been very excited that Prosser has joined. So it's a good partnership.
Good. Thank you. All right, National School Lunch Week. Come on down.
Hello.
Hi.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming and celebrating with us this week. We look forward to seeing you also at the middle school and at the high school on Thursday and Friday. Also, I'd like to thank all the volunteers who came out to the Bethel Church on October 5th. We provided enough food boxes for 219 families. We are scheduled again with Second Harvest on November 2nd and December 1st. We also need volunteers to sign up for those days, please. We're also dealing with supply shortages. So please be patient as our menu will change. We try to send an email out to the staff to let them know when it will be changed. We are looking forward to getting into the KRV Kinder Wing to serve our meals starting next week. And we're still doing our interviews for our 3 job positions that we have open. We had to kind of put them on hold because some of our candidates had COVID. So they will be scheduled in the next few weeks to get those filled. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Shell.
Good evening. Okay, COVID update. We are, just this last week, we received 20,000 child masks. In addition, we ordered 100 gallons more of hand sanitizer. And Linda has been sending us a weekly request form that we deliver out to the building. So I think our inventory is really great and I don't really see any issues. Some of the maintenance projects that we've been working on, a lot of punch list items at the high school. I mean, we've kind of been down this road before. I saw it at the middle school, I saw it at the old high school in 1980, but I was really disappointed when it rained and the roof leaked, because I mean, that was kind of the point of the new high school. But you know, we got them fixed, got the irrigation pumps been totally remodeled. So I think the architect put what, roughly $100,000 back into it, which was great. The pump is working very well. We're moving back to Riverview this Saturday. We have a crew that's going to be there at 9 a.m. and we'll have several custodians there as well. Should be able to finish it that day, the bulk of it. Some of the issues we've been having at the high school, the washer and dryer. We had 2 sets of washers and dryers that we ordered. I just received notice the other day that it would be at least February before they come in. So we're just kind of scrambling there. We have some landscaping issues that we're dealing with in the main parking lot. We really weren't happy with some of the way the parking lot came out. So we're going to change some of that. And, you know, typical, no hot water, no heat, no cooling. And I think we've got a pretty good handle on that. I think that's it. Kevin and I were really frustrated with the landscaping. We had to move the soccer game Saturday because we haven't had control of the irrigation water at the new high school. And for whatever reason, the landscaper decided he's going to water it 10 times more than what it needs. And we literally had one of our lawnmowers get stuck in the lawn. I've never seen that happen before. We had to have it pulled out. It sunk so much. I think that's it.
So is that taken care of now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
like we have control of the watering and.
He's going to come back in the spring. They're going to blow it Friday, actually, all the irrigation lines. And then in the spring, they'll come back and they'll start it and they'll run it, and then we take control of it.
Okay.
Dave, I wanted to thank you. This is probably your last board report. So David submitted his resignation, but you've done a great job. Dave oftentimes gets his job similar to mine in some respects, that he fields the phone calls that people call him when there's an emergency. And oftentimes he has lots of phone calls that may not necessarily be positive. So think over the years, I know that you've fielded a lot of those.
Yep.
And you've done a great job, and you've led the district for many, many years. And I really, really appreciate it. You're a true Mustang. So
Great,
thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Dave. All right, Mr. Lewis.
Good evening. That was a pretty extensive report that I submitted, so a lot of stuff going on. Is there any questions I can answer specifically for anybody? No? Okay. Just wanted some great highlights that are happening. We've got a lot of training going on, and really excited about starting up our after school interventions for our students. So thank you again for the work that we're able to do with the consultants. That's going to be a huge impact, and I look forward to bringing you some positive results soon.
Great.
Any other questions or address? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Amy with transportation, please.
So we are currently staffed, and I have one applicant who now has his behind the wheel. So you will see me out training him in a bus in the middle of the day. Today I was in the engine compartment. It's kind of fun. He was shocked I knew everything. So we're still doing 2 trips a day, and that puts staff in a bus on a route, but I can do more trips if they're after 4:15. So some days we have 4 or 5 going out if they go after route, so drivers can complete their home to school first. Next week is National Bus Safety Week. So we're gonna kind of give out some stuff to kids and just kind of go over rules quite a bit. We've had a lot of new students riding and a lot of behavioral issues. So we'll be pushing that quite a bit next week with all the flyers and stuff we got from National Safety. Last Saturday, some of the drivers and I went to the memorial for Richard down in Pasco, and it was great. We just poured out all the love to his family and the town, and in turn, they poured it back to us. There were actually people out there that yelled "Prosser Mustangs" as we drove by their bus, so it was kind of cool. And it was really good to see the transportation family just stick together through such a hard and trying times with that on there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. We're just all driving morning and nights, and I'm around, but I'm in a bus. Everybody else is too. Pickups are going a lot smoother now that we can get more buses in at the old high school and over at KRV. So we're not sitting and blocking traffic as much. So we're getting in and getting out and getting on route in the afternoon, and that's really been super helpful with kids on the bus.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
No, thanks.
Safety and security, Mr. Thompson, please.
Good evening.
Hi.
So, as you did see that I did not submit a report, and that's because that's a good thing. You don't want anything to hear from me. So we have nothing to report as far as security issues, concerns, or merits outside.
Okay, everything's going smoothly with like the new high school and not the new high school, the old high school, and having all of the little kids there, and fencing and everything seems to be.
So far, the fencing seems to be working very well. The radio problems have taken care of themselves, have been taken care of.
Okay.
Communications working very well throughout the district.
Thank you. Special services, I don't know if Cindy Dean is with us and wanting to give a report.
I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we now have 2 preschool students who are attending all day, 4 days a week. And so we're working on getting more kids attending all day. You guys have the recommendation for the physical therapist, so that should get approved tonight, I hope. We had 1 exception for September, and it was, or 0 exceptions for September and 1 for October. And that was a kid who transferred in late, and we just didn't get it done on time. My program numbers are wrong. The numbers for the kids in September, the total was 325. We dropped quite a bit with graduation, which is normal. And October is at 329. We have 10 current referrals that we're working on. 2 of those we have parent consent. And we had, as of today, since this report was written, we have 4 new transfers in, and we have 2 new initial IEPs that are done. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Technology. And can we hit the screen? Thank you.
On that technology note, I submitted a rather lengthy report. I won't touch on all of it today. This is a crazy time of year for us normally, and this year is just complicated by construction and other demands. So you can read through the report if you want some of the highlights that I thought I would touch on, or that I thought you guys needed to know. When it comes to the construction projects, technology is going great at KRV. Our network, everything came online today like it was supposed to, at least to my knowledge. So that's good news. I don't have any hiccups going on there. Tomorrow we have the training on using some of those applications. So I will probably have a better handle on some stuff there. New PHS is going swimmingly too. We still have big issues in our camera system. We're working through them. Only about 75% of our cameras are online consistently. And one of our servers keeps freezing up on us. We're still working with the subcontractors to fix those. So that's kind of a work in progress, a frustrating work in progress, but we're working through it. The data side of things in our department, every other year we have to file a civil rights reporting, a CRDC. We get to do back-to-back years this year. I don't know why they've requested it, but they do. So the next month or so, we'll be running lots of reports just to see how many kids we have in certain areas of our programs, how many different kids we have that take certain classes. And the end result of that, although it's very intensive reporting, is interesting. So over the next couple months, I'll bring some of that. It'll be enlightening anyway for you guys. Another super exciting thing that happened is we were awarded the first round of money for the emergency connectivity funds that the FCC put out. There are now 2 rounds. We were awarded the money that I went out for the first round. So that will supply 600 new Chromebooks. The benefit to that, we are 1-to-1, but we have aging Chromebooks in our district. So I'll be able to pull back some of those Chromebooks that are not touchscreen, that are not updating, that are not as great as the brand new ones that we bought last year. And I'll be able to replace those. So we will have 600 of those. That round of emergency connectivity funds will also purchase about half of 50 laptops. They put $400 towards a device. The laptops are about $800. So we'll be able to now give our paras updated equipment. We did all the teachers, the paras got We pulled old laptops out of surplus that we were getting rid of to give to our paras when we went one-to-one and everyone went home. We will now be able to take back those laptops that should have been destroyed a couple of years ago and replace them with new ones. So that's super exciting. I have applied for the second round of emergency connectivity funds. We'll see if we get that. Anyway, those are the highlights. Did you guys have any questions? All right.
Thank you. Nurses report. Do we have more than just what's written? Do we know?
I can speak for a little bit for them. The nurses, when they were asked to come for report, I thought they were going to pass out. They have been working very, very long days. They're trying to regain some of their lives back. We're doing contact tracing with people between 12 to 14, sometimes 16 hours a day, plus time on the weekends, because if we do have a positive case or suspected positive case, there's a lot of legwork that goes with that. When we had some illness, like in our first grade, we had one case, 3 students in 3 different parts of the room. There were 4 to 5 students affected by every single student that was sick, plus any contact tracing impact from the bus. And so it's in the constant phone calls, and they are taking a pretty good beating from parents often. They're calling, giving information people don't want to hear. Your child, whether they're sick or not, if they've been exposed, they have to stay home. And we understand there's a lot of frustration, but I said, I will talk for you so they could hopefully get some rest at home. They're going to be pretty happy to hear about the help they're getting. And I know Kevin was probably not here when I talked about that, because it will also assist with all that sports testing and things that we have to do, which is going to get really heavy when they have to do testing as well as the contact tracing and regular nurse duties. It's virtually impossible. So they're doing a great job, and they are holding their heads up. Maybe just their noses above the water. So if you see them, please thank them.
Well, and I wanted to say I appreciate the written report, even them taking the time to do that, just so we have better awareness of what's going on.
They send this out weekly. And I just want people to understand that these are cases that we identified it doesn't mean that there isn't more illness. There is, but people that have stayed home, people that have called in, and I know one of our guests talked about common sense. Well, sometimes what Matt said is really true. They'll have kids come in with a fever, and they'll say, "Oh, were you sick this morning?" And they'll say, "Yeah, my mom gave me Tylenol and told me to try." Or so I know it's hard for families, because it often is a matter of losing work and losing financial support for their families. But we do have kids and we've had adults come into that's why our doors are locked again. We have had ill adults come in, knowing they're ill with COVID, come into the schools to pick up kids and come right into the office. So that's why the doors are locked again. So.
Okay. We are down to you, Mr. Ellis. Superintendent report.
So really briefly, last week we conducted conferences. This week we have homecoming. Kindergarten, I briefed the board about another staffing position in kindergarten. It'll have really no impact to our funding because some of the funding streams to reduce class sizes. And so we decided to hire another position there. COVID-19, October 18th is quickly approaching. As you know, the governor set in place a mandate. We have about 450-ish employees. Of that, we only have 8 people that have not submitted a vaccination or exemption form. There's 2 types of exemptions, medical and religious. And so we have eight people left that we have to kind of get to a decision with. I want to pray. I see that she's on here. And so I want to praise Kim Bolt for her efforts in this area. She's been aggressive with just really bird dogging our people and I think it borders almost on harassment, like she wanted to know what they were doing. So she continued, she was persistent, and it's the reason why we have the numbers we do. So I was nervous about having to develop an emergency or contingency plan where we consider shutting the doors or something like that and going back to hybrid model. But because of the work of Kim, we'll be able to continue on and really address that. So we have about two employees per union that we're chasing down. So case counts have been declining with COVID, but we're still adhering to the protocols based upon what the county has given us. We have unfortunately had to shut down a couple of classrooms. I want to thank Transportation and Food Services for delivering meals and packets when that was needed. Again, that guidance came from the Benton Franklin Health District, and we worked with them on executing that. Executive assistant, we have a resignation letter from Heidi Chapman. As you know, one of my core values is family. I came back to Prosser to be around my family and to serve the community. And so whenever I have an employee say I need to leave a position because of my family, that's something that really hits home for me. And so, her stay was short and it saddens me, but yeah, we'll be opening her position up, covering it internally until we can find somebody to replace her. Again, Dave Shell in grounds and maintenance, we'll be posting his position. In fact, I think it was done today. Dave has just over the years done a really terrific job for the district. He's been at it a long time, and he's taken equal amounts of heat and grief in that position, but he's done a good job for the district. Bargaining, Craig, Deanna, and I still have some open contracts. We'll be bargaining with the principals, secretaries, security officers, administrative assistants, coaches, and exempt employees and or directors. And so we're looking at closing those and bringing proposals forward. Redistricting, I sent the board some information about some Amish data solutions. State law indicates that whenever there's a census, we have to review that and balance out the district areas for our directors. And so we will be looking into that and seeing how balanced we need to do them, and if we have to shift district boundaries for board members. So that will be something that we'll need to have a resolution on and bring in front of the board for approval. We've continued with staff development, and principals are working on their school improvement plans so that those can be addressed and passed before the start of the year. Food services. So supply chain, I'm sure if you're watching the news, you've seen that nationwide there's supply chain issues. We're not exempt from that. So we've had to make smaller adjustments within food services in some areas. Darlene has done a tremendous job about really forward thinking and kind of anticipating some of those needs and planning around that. So it really hasn't impacted us too much, but that could potentially be a future conversation that we have. As I talked about, or Craig had kind of talked about, we have some work hanging out there, deciding on a levy rate, deciding what we're going to do with our properties. Of course, connecting back with Patterson and talking about their contribution for the bond. There's still work that we have to do, as well as Whitstrand and school improvement plans and that. So last piece, October is Principals Month. And so the governor issued a proclamation, and I just wanted to read a short snippet of that. October's Principals Month to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals and assistant principals to the success of each and every student in Washington schools, our most valuable resource, and to encourage the residents of Washington to observe Principals Month with the appropriate ceremonies and activities to promote the awareness of the importance of school leadership in ensuring that every child has access to high quality education. So I just want to thank our principals for all the work that they do, and being able to open our schools and keep them open has been, sit squarely on their shoulders. And so I've appreciated a lot of the work and leadership, their leadership, this past year, and just want to recognize their contribution this month. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those at this time.
Any questions? Andy, any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Board member reports. Andy. Okay. Jeannie?
I just had a couple of fun things. We were at the football game and we were so impressed with the band and everybody around us. I wanted to congratulate Mr. Norris and the students for their hard work and the award they got at Leavenworth. We attended the Honor Society breakfast. It was put on very nicely, and I wanted to say thank you. We went to the blackout volleyball. It was a hoot. Juniors rock. The juniors beat everybody but the staff, and our Zach is a madman on the volleyball court. And I've been having fun doing lunch this week, and I wanted to thank Darlene, and these gals do a wonderful job for our children, and thank you.
Mark?
I don't have much. I'm just still getting used to the overload of information and everything that, goes with this, just getting into it. I appreciate the opportunity, and I also had the opportunity to go and help serve lunch today, and got to see a bunch of my football players out there and, fist bump them, and they were really excited. It's just a good experience, and just seeing the overall, positiveness from everybody, and just all the challenges that they've had to take on, and whether it be with COVID or with the remodels just getting thrown at them, they take it as a challenge, and they come out swinging, and it's been really cool. It's been really cool to see at that level and see it firsthand today. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if Peggy wanted to share anything.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have anything tonight, but thank you for asking.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. I also just wanted to share good information and positivity. Attended both conferences for my girls, and those went well. And it's amazing what a difference a year having to deal with technology gives to the teachers, and how much more comfortable they are. And just things weren't going well with one of the conferences, and it was like, okay, well, just call my cell phone. I can still see you, and we'll get our voices across that way. And we just went with it. I started the guiding good choices parenting classes through the Thrive program, and that's going well and has been interesting. And then I got to serve lunch yesterday and was just known as the taco sauce lady, because that's all I said the whole time. Do you want taco sauce? Do you want taco sauce? Do you want taco sauce? So that was fun, and thank you for that opportunity. And with that, Hannah, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yes. Yes, it's on.
Yes.
So at the Princess Theater, we've begun rehearsals for our production all together now. Performances are going to be November 18th, 19th, and 20th. And all profit is going to be going directly to the Princess Theater. The publishers have disseminated this show to help theaters get back on their feet after the pandemic. And at the high school drama club, we've been doing rehearsals for our production. Horatio Will Be Late. We're about 5 weeks out from those performances. It's going to be a hoot.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay, we have come to our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We accept the consent agenda.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And moving on to action items.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Comprehensive Healthcare Service Agreement. I'd entertain a motion and then we'll have discussion. Moved and seconded and discussion.
Just a quick comment. We've had the comprehensive healthcare person work in our system for the last several years. And it only is able, in the past, we've only been able to serve students who have Medicaid. And this year I was able to work with William Waters, one of their leads there. And I'm able to use I'm using some LAP money so that, because if we have a student, for instance, like at the high school, kids can get healthcare, they can get mental health services without parent permission, or sometimes parents can't take them because we don't have a lot of services really here in town. They have to drive, or sometimes the kids, want some help and maybe don't know if the parents would be supportive, or maybe. So we actually can now support students without forcing kids with private insurance to leave the building. They can be served at school. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, reading through it, it seemed really beneficial and great for our district. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I would entertain a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our future meetings, we have scheduled October 27th here at 7 p.m. and then November 10th, also here at 7 p.m. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.